expert knowledge that he also possesses in the subject matter. And I look forward, from the perspective of CARICAD, to working with both the Secretary General and the Minister as we move forward to execute against the objective.
Okay, afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Two quick questions that I'm just focused on next steps and going forward. What do we achieve out of the conference, out of both the summit and this symposium? Firstly, to the SG about the framework which had been crafted following the summit. What are going to be the identifiable, measurable, palpable steps that Caribbeaners can expect going forward, perhaps short and medium term from that?
Right, thank you. I just want to say the stated objectives of the summit were met completely. All of the things that we set out to do with the summit, they were accomplished. I'm unequivocal in that. With respect to the symposium, one of the outputs of the symposium is a high-level plan for moving a country to e-government, to 21st century government. And that is an exercise that is still ongoing. So this afternoon session will wrap up that, the exercise to develop this high-level plan. We cannot go into all of the details. Delegates will have to go back to their country. They're going to have to look at their national development plans, what are their priorities, determine what the e-government strategy will be in order for the government to meet their priorities, and work through a number of issues, but they have a sort of template. They would be leaving this symposium this afternoon with a template of how to proceed. Yes? And the plan beyond that is that once a government commits, the CTU and CARICAD and our other strategic partners will work with those governments to flesh out the details of that plan, and then we are prepared to assist with the implementation. As I said, many a good plan in the region fails at the point of implementation, and we are not going to let the hard work that has gone fail because the capacity to implement isn't there. So we will bring our strategic partners to the process to ensure that at the end of, I think we're looking at a year, work would have begun and that you would start seeing the results. I just need to make one other point. This is a journey. It doesn't ever end. Yes? But over the course of time, you'll be seeing incremental moves towards the sort of transformation that is required across the region. Yes? And the CTU is committed to that course. Yes.
Just before I come to, okay, you were saying.
If I could give just a brief rejoinder on that. In terms of some practical issues that have to be considered in the respective home countries, there are certain building blocks that are going to be necessary upon which ultimately the 21st century government needs to be established. And before the actual summit and workshop, the CTU had circulated amongst member states a certain questionnaire that gives almost a situational audit of where each country was. And I will tell you that Antigua has probably been on that continuum for a little while longer than, let's say, the person who would initiate some steps starting next week. There's going to have to be consideration of the legal environment, and there has to be certain enabling bits of legislation that the respective host country and parliament would have to look at. Governing things like data protection and security and measures dealing with digital certificate and digital signatures, etc. They've also got to have to look at the respective position of the government in terms of its own wide area network. how connected are the government offices in terms of ultimately being able to have the ability to share information across the government, seamlessly across the government. They will also need to look at the human resource capacity that is available to ensure that they are going to be able to respond to those particular challenges. And more importantly, they have to make a determination in country as to what is the agency that is going to drive the effort. Because if it's the one thing I can tell you, it needs to be a nationwide effort. It cannot be done in silos. So there has to be some governing agency, and we cannot predict or prescribe what that agency ought to be. Host countries are best positioned to be able to make those determinations, but there has to be a central driving agency that takes responsibility for the overall national plan and execute on that plan. And I think if those frameworks are in place, then they will be concerned about the necessity to automate various aspects of the government. As again, if we were to look at the two countries from Europe that came and participated in the summit and in the forum, it took 10 years for them to reach to the point of development that they're at. Because we are learning from them and because some of the technologies have become tried and proven, it is likely that we could have it in shorter cycles. But given the fiscal position of many of our countries in the Caribbean, and that's a reality, there may be some challenges with respect to funding. And one of the things that we have contemplated at the CTU level, and certainly was part of our conversation here, is that perhaps maybe we could have a conversation about sharing some of the common costs, in that everyone may not need to invest in the type of infrastructure. Let's say if we were looking at a public key infrastructure to support digital certificates, everyone may not need to invest in one. We could have some shared costs and some shared services in that respect. So we're going to have that conversation as well. And I think the idea has been mentioned of an ICT SUSU. We have got to flesh that out and make a determination as to the best fit for what we want to do. But we have certainly commended, and I can certainly say from Antigua's standpoint that one of the ways we have been able to make some progress is that we had to look at the cost envelope within government and make a determination as to how some of those costs can be repackaged and some of the monies can be repurposed. There is a significant degree of wasteful expenditure and rework and unnecessary costs, if we're honest with ourselves. And I think if we undertake that exercise in each of the respective countries, we can find that we can liberate some funds that will, push the cart along. So those are some of the practical steps that have to be considered, and it's going to be an equation in stick-to-itiveness. We're going to have a continuum and a benchmark position for each country. And of course, we're going to cheerlead. So we each are going to be each other's keepers, if you would, to ensure that we ultimately cross the line at some point in time.
And for Mr. Rowe, in terms of how CARICAD will present the kind of institutional capacity building, capacity strength, human resource, or any other strategic help, how do you foresee doing that and how quickly?
Well, based on the gaps that are identified, CARICAD has a set of methods and methodologies that it can utilize. In addition as well to, we understand the business of implementation in terms of ensuring the change management, communication, business process, re-engineering steps are taken and ensuring that the performance management, results-based arrangements are put in place to support the various activities. The other thing that CARICAD will be doing as well too is that it will be engaging in a diagnostic of civil service across the Caribbean to try and assess for each country where they are in the process aligned to our charter, which we hope to have endorsed by the heads of government this year. So to the extent that we are going to be assessing countries against the charter, which we hope will provide a harmonized approach to civil service or public service in the Caribbean, we believe that the interface with e-government and with the move towards 21st century government will be much easier.
Right. So that diagnostic exercise, is it as a result of what the collaboration with the CTU, or is it parallel, but it will match eventually, or it will be subsumed eventually?
Interestingly, it was already being designed, and this 21st century push provides the perfect envelope within which it can fit. It would have been done in any case before, but now we will be associating it with the work that is being done on 21st century government. It can also be used as well for other activities such as leadership deficits, HR arrangements, right across the public service in the region. But this provides a very, very special opportunity for its practical use.
When does it start?
We're designing the survey now. We expect to be completed by the end of March with the instrument. Because we have to test it before we put it out. We intend to also discuss it with the IDB as well to get the perspectives from Latin America and from elsewhere in the region, real expertise that will help to strengthen the instrument. We hope to execute it post-March this year. And based on responses, we hope to be able to complete that diagnostic between June and September this year.
All right, my final question to both the SG and the President, CTU. Just to be clear, from the summit, was there anything signed? Was there a sort of a draft framework agreement signed with the heads of government and premiers who were here and ministers? Was there anything definitive, something something palpable that was signed from that summit?
We did not have the opportunity to have a formal signing, but at least 4 heads of government gave their commitment. And we imagined, and I expect that by next week, they will be in touch with us, and we will begin that work. And it's I think, quite interesting that some of the British overseas dependencies, there's a strong interest coming from them. And it presents a wonderful opportunity now to work with those countries as a subgroup, and begin that process of sharing amongst these countries. And Minister Nicholas said very emphatically, I think it not yesterday, I think it was, that he is certainly prepared to share their lessons and their challenges with the rest of the region. And we are going to be taking him up that offer so that across the region there would not be this process of duplication and reinventing the wheel and spending unnecessary finances. Yes, so that is our thinking at this point. Thank you.
To Minister. So timeline, again, just to be absolutely clear again, you mentioned pretty much a year, kind of looking at as a ballpark for there to be kind of palpable initiatives being put in place?
Well, if I could put a sharper edge on the tool, we have a number of initiatives that are due to be implemented this year. As I'd indicated to the symposium, we had adopted cloud technology, and we had agreed to a hybrid cloud topology. This week, as a matter of coincidence, of peculiar coincidence, we were handed over the private cloud now that it has been completed. So we will go through our own evaluation, and of course, coming along with that will be a degree of training to ensure proficiency of use. But that has given the government the opportunity to have as much computing power as it needs for the next 3 years on demand. And that is going to be important because a number of the other programs that we have coming along will require just that. The Treasury, for instance, was waiting on the provision of that extra computing power to be able to get to another phase of the software that they have been using to provide the type of dashboards that would enable better decision making in terms of the government spending and you know, the whole question of managing the fiscal affairs of the government. So that is going to be a fillip, and I think that by the end of the Easter period, the Treasury would be in a position to see the benefit of that. We are as well investing in a new wide area network. We spent a considerable time thinking about security during this conference. We had a very important presentation this morning. That new network is going to give us, that new wide area network is going to, we had requested under the Act Cisco, a worldwide recognized player, to provide us with the type of security to protect us at the border level. And we would expect implementation of that as well by the end of Easter. We had two important tenders that were issued last year, and the vendors have been selected. And so we will be doing an undertaking, the automation of our civil registry, at the end of which we will be in a position to accord each citizen and resident with a digital identity. We are now completing the final phases of our public key infrastructure that would allow us to be able to give impetus to that bit of legislation that we enacted last year to allow for our registrars, be they in the business registry, the lands registry, or the courts, the civil registry, to be able to offer documents electronically with an electronic signature, a certified signature. And that is an important precursor to the ability for us to have a data exchange within the country, such that it will no longer, once we are at that point of implementation, a citizen will no longer be required to go to the civil registry or the courts to be able to get a birth certificate to present to the passport office to either A, apply for a passport or renew it, because the passport office will be able to call that information from the civil registry electronically without reference, just by the virtue of the digital certificate, the digital identity of the particular citizen. So I think at the back end of this year, a number of those initiatives would have borne fruit, and the rest, as they say, will be left up to adoption. It is often the case where there is a lag because it takes a while before we complete that bell curve. We're going to have some early adopters, but I guess over a period of time with education and more information and again, opinion leaders and others who have seen the benefit, it will come on board as we go along. But I think by the end of the year, we should see some of these fruits beginning to bear, to be a testimony to the work that has to be done this year.
Okay. And finally, the cloud, private cloud, you said, who's the provider of it?
This is the local provider would be Antigua Computing Technology, but they're representing HP, Hewlett-Packard. They had provided the platform before, so this is an upgrade and one that is beyond economic repair and certainly older than 15 years old. So we are now getting a spanking new facility.
Wonderful. And this will be across this cloud will provide storage facilities for the entire public service?
Well, some storage, yes, but it's not primarily for storage. It would be for the computing needs. So, for example, a lot of the work that we will have to do with the data exchange and with the whole idea of moving towards doing more business analysis and information that we have from the government and creating data warehouses to make government become more efficient. That information has to be put in a secure environment. What we call sovereign information has got to be kept under the control of the central government. And so that will be managed centrally from my ministry.
Colonel, I had the unenviable job of standing between you and your lunch. So thank you very much for taking time out to address